It's my pleasure to welcome Sarah Roach Lewis, who is a PEI author, seasoned entrepreneur, mentor, and coach, joining us to moderate this afternoon a panel discussion with three island entrepreneurs. I'd like to welcome Simonne Cormier, who is founder of Naturel Solutions, Sarah Bennetto O'Brien, founder of the Handpie Company, and Rachael Sonola, who's founder of Sinola Sweets. And many of you may be aware that all three of these women were finalists in PEI's Sensational Summer Pitch Fest this past summer, with Sarah emerging as the overall winner of the very exciting competition and $15,000 in cash. So very excited to hear what you all have to say. Welcome, Sarah, and I will let you go to it.
Well, thank you so much, Rose. And I couldn't be more delighted to be here this afternoon with three incredible entrepreneurs. And we, of course, had the opportunity to have a little chat before our conversation here. And one of the things that I really took note of in each of my conversations is how we are so lucky to have three women who are at very different stages of business, at very different stages of their entrepreneurial journey. So what I'm delighted about today is that we'll all have the opportunity to hear from very different perspectives based on, sort of that stage of business that we're in right now. So I'd love to get started with Rachael. And what I'd love to just start with each of you is just a little bit about your business. What is it that you do, Rachael?
Hi, I'm Rachael Sonola. I do a few things. I'm a dietetic intern, but at the same time, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I'm the founder of Sonola Sweets, which is a bake mix company and also Main Experience. And we do body care stuff with shea butter and other ingredients shipped from Ghana and Nigeria, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, we're a small business trucking along and learning.
Wonderful. Well, and congratulations. You were part of this and you were also successful in the Ignition Fund this year as well.
Yes, that was awesome.
Amazing. Simonne, can you tell us a little bit about your business?
So I'm Simonne Cormier, founder and CEO of Naturel Solutions, and we've introduced an all-natural, handcrafted external breast prostheses into the marketplace, something that does not exist currently, with the silicone and polyester being the primary. So what I'm proud of is being able to give empowerment of choice to women to an all-natural alternative to something that really is so dear and personal to my own experience.
Amazing. Thank you.
Perfect.
And Sarah Bennetto O'Brien.
Hi, everybody. I love being in the same room as these amazing women that I just wish we were all in the same place today, hopefully for next year. So I am the CEO and founder of the Handpie Company, and I totally wear my shirt today. We manufacture savory handheld pies in the tradition of the Cornish pasty right here in Uptown Albany.
Amazing. Well, what I'd love to do is really get started. One of the things that we talk about all the time with entrepreneurship is that it's hard because it is really challenging. And sometimes there's a bump a minute, really. But what I love to do is start with hearing from you. What's something that a win, something that you're really proud of, where you're at in where you're at right now. So maybe we'll just go backwards. Sarah, if I can start with you.
Absolutely. So where do I even go with this one? But the thing that I'm most excited about is the thing that is taking up 95% of my headspace and kind of virtual plate right now, is that we're going through a massive expansion project. Right now we're in construction on a new facility that will give us about 11,000 square feet, mostly production space, a lot of frozen storage that we can also get federally certified, so that we can finally start selling hand pies off island through other retailers. Right now, how our business stands out of our current facility in Albany, we can only distribute within Prince Edward Island. So we're really looking forward to expanding our customer base, basically times 10 instantly, as soon as we can get a pie across that bridge, hopefully by the fall.
Amazing. Sarah, how long have you been in business? How long since a Handpie company started?
There's always a complicated answer to your very simple question.
Of course.
Sarah. We've been just Handpie since 2017. Incorporated and moved into our current facility in 2018 when we really hit the ground running with that, started bringing in wholesale clients. And just really hit our stride in 2019. Then we all know what happened in 2020. But safe to say that we make comfort food for uncomfortable times. And the pandemic hasn't been too horrible for us in that aspect. So it'll continue to grow.
Yeah, amazing. And, just really reflecting on that, for those of us who are on PEI, the Handpie company is really, such a well-known brand. And we all, think of that in terms of that comfort. And so amazing that, to imagine that journey and where you are now and how exciting that is to be on the brink of that. So great. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So essentially, we're all cheering you on, in case you haven't noticed.
Oh, I can hear it.
So for those of you who are watching, I really want to encourage you, if you have questions for any of these amazing women, just feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on that, and we'll raise those questions up as well. So Simonne, tell us a little bit about, what's happening for you right now. What's something right now that you're really pleased and proud of that your business is doing?
Well, what I'm really happy for is that we got into pharmacy out of Quebec, the Jean Coutu. We're also available here in Prince Edward Island with Murphy's Pharmacy in Parkdale. And we're doing strides in other pharmacies that we're looking to access. We're also available online. And we're developing, the appropriate social media to go with it, kind of a branding exercise right now. So, there's still a lot of work to be done, and they're growing pains, and I'm surrounded by wonderful entrepreneur mentors. And even just like Sarah said, being involved with other women, it's just a very empowering ecosystem that is being developed.
Yeah, it's amazing. So Simonne, for you, what you're really have been able to focus on in this last couple of years is part of it is developing the product itself. And now you're at the stage where you're really looking at what those markets are.
That's right.
Yeah,
there's
amazing.
so many different point of contacts, from the cancer treatment centers to the hospitals, to the clinicians, to just the pharmacies, and the small boutiques and everyone has an avenue that they will look, whether it's just looking online for their solution, but it's about serving that pain that women have once they've survived, breast cancer. And it also goes a distance with people who have asymmetry, either from surgery or natural, the 2S LGBTQ and gender expression as well. So, it's not just for one avenue. There's so many people, and the statistics are amazingly, it's huge.
Yeah.
And we really don't know what the other statistics are for the other than the cancer patients, because those statistics would be based on probably fairly recent documentation.
Sure.
But but we're quite happy that people can come in and get a fully customizable breast prostheses that, depending on their coverage, would be covered through health insurance, provincial programs, or what have you. So
yeah. And what I really love, if we pull that back and we think about on the last In the last 40 years, women have really embraced entrepreneurship and have quadrupled the number of women-owned businesses in the last 40 years, which, is so amazing. And one of the things that I just think is so extraordinary about that is that we're solving our own problems. And so your business is really such a shining example of that, of taking, an experience that you had, something that is an experience that unfortunately many women have, and turning that into, a solution. And I think it's extraordinary. Rachael, tell us what you are excited about these days in your business.
Absolutely. I just want to say that for me, like one big thing is when other people try something that you've made or you've created and they give that acknowledgement and say, this is amazing. I think that changes the course of like an entrepreneur's journey, because now you're no longer doing it for yourself. There's people that you're impacting. And I think even for each of our businesses here, I feel like that's a drive for us. And that's just something that's so beautiful to me. In terms of where we are now, Sonola Sweets, we just wrapped up our production nutrition facts label phase with Canada's Smartest Kitchen. Sarah and I spoke about this actually the last time we were in person, which is just talking about packaging and moving it, like branding and all of that. So we're excited to be going into that phase. We're working with Ash Green, who's on this call right now. So it's going to be amazing. So we're doing some branding stuff, and we're going to be going into packaging so that we can get our mixes into packs and eventually be in stores at some point. But yeah, that's a little win in our book. So we're just trucking along, honestly.
And Rachael, how did you come to that? Because, when we had our little chat, what I think is extraordinary is you were making sweets, and I was hearing about how great those sweets were. And then you took those, I'm making sweets and now or sweet goods, and now switching that to producing those. What was that mind shift, and what made you shift that mindset from doing to thinking about how can I mass produce this?
Right. That was, I think, at the time when I faced that challenge, I didn't think it was going to end well, because we had just started selling our loaves at the Riverview Country Market, and I had an issue with shelf life. So in my head, that was it. Like Sonola Sweets was done. But then I met the really amazing folks at Food Island Partnership. And I remember this meeting where we're all brainstorming what could happen. And someone's like, maybe you could just pack it in a bag and freeze it. And someone's like, what about bread mixes? I'm like, that's interesting. I never thought about that. So I took that with me. And then I literally went home and started doing my mini testing in my little lab. And just started to see what that would look like. Would it be the same? What's the difference? Does it give the same story? What's the purpose of the business? How does this reflect that purpose? It was a lot of meeting the right people, I would say, brought me to that journey, because I didn't even know they existed until I faced that issue. But they've been on the island for a very long time. So it's just meeting the right people at the right time and having the resources. There's so many resources on the island that we all need to get involved with. So it's just that's what helped us. That's what helped push me through and like actually get into being like, okay, this is a possibility. How do I make it work? But also figuring that out for the business before bringing it up to a bigger team and seeking help.
That's so amazing. So cool. And Sarah, that's something that you've been really good at over your time in business as well, is finding those connections, finding those folks who can help out. What role has that like entrepreneurial or food-based support system meant for you and your business?
Everything, totally everything. I mean, I'm an extrovert, and then kind of converting that into entrepreneurship where you can kind of operate in your own bubble and feel really, really lonely in that. So every time I kind of reached out to be like, all right, I need to build that community around myself. It already totally exists on Prince Edward Island. The way that my business has grown, I don't believe could have happened this way or this quickly anywhere else. I know that Rachael mentioned the Food Island Partnership. They were hugely pivotal in us becoming the Handpie company, because I was in the first year of Food Excel, which is a food accelerator program for startup manufacturers. We'll kind of call it that. And that was the first time. We used to be called something else. You know, I started the tiny restaurant in 2014. But it was in that winter of 2017 for Food Excel, where it had you kind of step out of your business and work on it rather than in it for the first time, and work it out on paper, what that would look like if you just made one product. And as soon as I kind of pulled that out of my head and onto paper and saw the numbers, that was it. We, you know, within 2 weeks, I had bought all new signs and registered a new business name, and we became the Handpie company. Because, you know, it's every entrepreneur's dream to kind of find your niche and really just dive into that. So I'd say, you know, I answered 800 questions in there, but the Food Island partnership is pivotal, as well as, you know, PEI. PEI has been amazing, even just the Symposium, especially when it's in person, but getting to be in that network of people that understand what you do on that entrepreneurship level, and pull you out of that kind of lonely bubble to show you that so much is possible when you have the right people in your corner. They exist here.
So true. And I think that's such a great point. Like in terms of that, we have a great ecosystem here. And sometimes, I mean, with everything, there's the joys and the challenges, right? And the joy and the challenge of PEI is that we're small. And the joy of that is that we're small and we have the ability to make these connections. And I also think we have an amazing community here where people really do cheerlead. And I think, you know, those folks, particularly who businessed through the pandemic, really saw how much that local support, like people really dug in with local support. So it's really cool. So Simonne, I'm curious, you know, we've talked about some of the joys. What are some of the challenges that you face at that stage where you're at in terms of, you know, you've got your product now and you've got some, you know, you've got some market, it's in these places. What are some of the things that, you know, keep you up at night or make your belly sick?
Well, I don't think there's too many things that keep me up at night.
Good.
I'll never say that I sleep like a baby, because have you ever had a baby? They don't sleep. You hear that expression all the time. But I think what the challenges are the moments that you realize, oh, I don't know how to do that. And then having a team of mentors that really you're able to reach into. So I'm part of the Emergence program with BioAlliance and also with the Creative Destruction Lab out of Dartmouth. So, and the PEI Business Women's Association, who's just upstairs in my building. So, you know, it's just a wonderful incubation of, and somebody said it best when they said the best place to start a business and to be supported is on Prince Edward Island. It's the time is now, especially for women, and especially for products that you're passionate about, and being able to find the mentors, whether it's another business that's doing something extraordinary, or just being able to say, this is normal. What you're going through is normal. And I've gone through it. This is how I got through it. You know, and I think you don't know what you don't know until you know that there's that uncomfortable spot that that really speaks to you to say, okay, this is not something I'm comfortable with. So how can I get the supports to slide me through and to support me while I'm going through this period? Absolutely.
Yeah, can you give me an example? Like, I so resonate with that. Like those moments of like, I didn't know until what I didn't know until like, oh, now I need. Can you give me an example, like in your journey of where you've been in the last couple of years, an example of that, of one of those like, oh.
Well, I can give you a couple of examples. So I had contacts in the textile industry in Europe, in the UK, and in Spain and France. So initially, this was back in 2019 when I very first started really with my company. And their thing was, you are changing the face of innovation for breast cancer survivors.
Wow.
And how prostheses are coming to evolution and getting to where it needs to be. And they said, you've done that. So that imposter syndrome didn't completely disappear, but these are executives in the textile industry that were just in awe of the change in the 80 plus years of synthetic prostheses. And it humbled me to no end to know that I discovered this. And it came from my own experience of not being comfortable with synthetics and rolling up cotton socks to fill in that negative space and saying, there's got to be a natural alternative to what many, many people struggle with.
That's incredible. Thank you for that. Yeah. Wow. Rachel, and you are, as you said at the top of this, you are a full-time intern as well as an entrepreneur. So give us a sense of what are some of the challenges and the struggles that you face kind of on your day-to-day?
Question is, what is sleep? Who does that? Do we sleep? I don't. But I'm like glad that we're all like here and everyone's in different stages. So I'm hopeful that when I say the challenges, someone's going to say, oh, that's okay. That passes after 2 years or 3. So I'll wait for that. But a big one is being able to, like, I think realizing that there's one person in my situation that makes the decision. So if I have a plan or I think this is what has to be done, and I'm waiting for the person to do, it's me. I'm the accountant. All of those decisions go through one person. So there's no waiting for someone else to pick it up and do it and do the task. And I think that's very challenging. But at the same time, I would say that now it's a lot easier with the many resources. Like once you're able to tap into resources, knowing that there's people who can help you through those phases, it's easier. It doesn't take away the other challenges because you can't outsource everything and you can't give everything out to others to help you do, but it's important to use resources. I think this all, it's like, have you found someone else that can help you with this or talk you through it, or someone who's done it before? Mentorship, organizations, get them. Like that's, you really need it, right? But it's wearing all the hats can be very, very challenging. And I would say for me, that's something that I've had to learn to do, because there's a lot of skills that I didn't have before becoming an entrepreneur. And I can tell you, I can apply for every job now because I've done it all. But yeah, I can build, a lot of stuff now. I know how. So yeah, I would say just the wearing all the hats and the pressures that come with that.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I can appreciate that. Sarah, how about you? More years in, and you've certainly shed some of the hats over the years, but would love to hear what some of the challenges are that you face where you're at right now.
I mean, I'd love to be able to tell Rachel that that goes away.
Oh.
Man, as you share the hats, your own hat tends to get larger, and I feel like maybe some days I'm wearing like a sombrero, because as much as you keep growing, your problems evolve with you. Addressing them when they become pinch points is extremely important, so that it's not the same problems growing bigger and bigger. It's just as you take on more, just being able to thrive on challenge. But I feel like all of us do that already. You don't make it through your first year of entrepreneurship if you aren't a lifelong learner and really, really into challenges. And I always crack jokes that I learn 800 new things a week, and it's absolutely true. But challenges that I face now, I have to admit that, Sarah was my business coach last year, and she kind of always talked about that ceiling of, it's extremely hard when your business hits a certain revenue threshold to kind of crack through that. And for us, it was, we're all going to talk honestly here, right? We could talk about money. It was getting from $750,000 a year in sales to crack that $1 million mark. It was like, okay, you know, we already have an excellent product. We already have great distribution within our zone. I already felt like we were doing, you know, some pretty good marketing. And it was just that extra like push this year that, you know, by December 31st, we're going to hit that $1 million in sales this year. And that's crazy and amazing. And I just feel like more of us need to talk about that. I kind of just saw that from Chantal pop up in the comments that we can't be afraid to make spaces to talk about money with each other. Because the traditional, let's say the traditional kind of business setup of the bros in suits at a business table isn't my reality. And I don't think is a reality for a lot of women that are attending today. So let's make these spaces to talk about, you know, like the regular pinch points through the years, but also, okay, well, you know, I've been an entrepreneur since 2014. I'm now at a certain stage. That $1 million mark is insane. Having more than 10 staff also is like another level that I would love to talk about all day. So yeah, just making spaces and making those places where we can get together and network and get through those together. We can all get through anything together. I truly believe that after the last few years.
Sarah, well done. Congratulations. And a couple of reflections on that. You know, the first being, it is like you say, it is a tough one. And, you know, good on you to keep pushing for that. And 2% of women-owned businesses make more than $1 million a year in annual revenue. So you have hit a huge milestone, and we really, everyone on this call is cheering you on, I can tell. And the other thing to kind of acknowledge on that is that there are I used to have a podcast and a radio show, and in December of 2019, right? Yes, 2019, Sarah was on my podcast, and she said, I'm gonna hit that that revenue threshold and come back and talk to you. So good on you for doing it. And I know that the pandemic really, you know, that was a tough one, right? A tough one for all of us. And I think it really speaks to that, you know, the grit that you need as an entrepreneur, and that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, blood, sweat, tears, butter that goes into that many hand pies, right? And so just congratulations on that. And I think, you know, having those conversations about the tough things and really looking at, you know, we know that that's a tough one. We also know that hitting $100,000 a year. So at the other end, 86% of women-owned businesses make less than $100,000 a year. And the sort of the middle of it is about 50. So many of us are really struggling at like the hardest stage of business. And so really just wanting to acknowledge wherever you are along that path, you know, there is that help along the way. So anyway, I'm all distracted now. I'm so excited. So there's lots of congratulations in the and Carol says, it's true talking about money is uncomfortable, but it's also true that certain levels of sales allows for business growth. Like I wanted to make enough revenue to hire a manager so I could step out of the day-to-day business and do the work of keeping the business growing and being sustainable. And that's it, right? It's such a great point, Carol, of, you know, what happens when we do talk about money and what happens when we step out of our comfort zone. So that's a great segue to Simonne. So Simonne, how are you working on, like you've been working on partnerships, correct? And so what has that experience been like? Because that's a pathway, you know, that investment pathway is one that not a lot of entrepreneurs move down that path as well.
Right. And I think for myself, and similar to some of the previous speakers and others, I've I listened to Kathy Bennett, who's also one of my
Oh,
mentors.
so great. Yeah.
Oh, she's amazing. She spoke about, taking care of the employees. They'll look after your customers or help put the product together or do the communication pieces that need to be done or support in other ways. And then the customers will look after you. So right now, the partnerships that I'm building are about the marketing and, getting those support systems in place to educate and to advocate for change in how we address breast care after breast cancer surgery and treatment. So if anything right now, it's about building those partnerships, building those relationships, having the right mentors in place to reach in and develop. I don't know who to speak to in Newfoundland for health or PEI or Nova Scotia or whoever. And those are big deals. Those are the people that need to understand the logistics of how these things affect women
Yeah.
and others, who have a need. And part of that was actually having a literature review done on synthetics versus natural materials and how our bodies are affected by that. So I'm so looking forward for that literature review to be made available to me, because that is a big selling point, is letting people know how we as a society are just overcome with petroleum-based products in our environment, in our water supplies, in our air that we breathe, and in the foods that we eat in a lot of cases. Not you, Sarah. Your thing is clean. I mean, I feel like my grandmother actually made those hand pies with the meat pie. They are phenomenal. That's a little publicity for you there.
Thank you.
But I think that's the thing, is finding a way to overcome the barriers that are in your way. And as a founder and CEO of your own company, you ultimately have that last decision to make. All those recommendations from all those mentors and whatnot, at the end of the day, well said, Rachel, you're the one who's going to do it. And you're the one who ultimately makes that decision. And if it's a misstep, it's, bad on me, and you learn from it and you go back and you refocus. But it's to, if you fall 3 times, get up 4, and, just keep going and keep that passion alive.
That's great. Thank you. Karen McLeod Wilkie. Hello. Karen has a question. How do we find the partnerships we need to help us grow? So, any of you really, if you want to jump in on that, how do you find the partnerships?
Keep asking.
Mm.
Look at within, look
Mhm.
at the others who have succeeded before you, and see if they'll mentor you. I mean, I'm not there yet, but when the time comes, I would be honored when the time comes. Not now, but in a couple of years, absolutely. And even just finding your purpose, I think is the one big thing. Is sometimes the passion and the purpose don't necessarily meet. And once you find that passion and purpose, then that's when you'll really find the support that you need.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. Yeah, go ahead,
And
Sarah.
and I definitely have to say, like, don't discount non-industry specific mentorship. Because when I was a baby entrepreneur, I reached out to, someone that I really, really looked up to, that I felt was, a few years ahead of me in business, and got turned down so hard for mentorship, and kind of, was taken aback. And now that I realize a few more years down the line that, she just didn't have the time or the headspace to kind of pull somebody else through the muck and the mire of the first few years of entrepreneurship that she had just escaped from. So, finding your networking opportunities through PEI, that's an amazing resource. But yeah, find someone that you look up to, even just in a general business space. And then it kind of just keeps going from there. Keep networking, keep asking those questions, and you'll build your own community. It does take time though.
Yeah.
Good point.
I was
Anything
gonna add,
to add
yeah,
to that, Rachel?
yeah, just something where I'm very introverted. I do not like to speak in public, but my business has changed. Like I have to, again, it's back to that one person. If I don't talk about it, nobody will literally know what I do. Right? So it's being able to watch, and also like it can be scary to approach organizations to seek for help. So it's good for you, even as an individual, to do your little research and see what the organization or the company is about, and see if their values align with yours before making that step. I think that's very important for like us as entrepreneurs. It's, you don't want, like, there's many gray lines, and you want to be sure of what you're going into and what you're asking for when you're sending out emails or looking to create those relationships. Be clear on what you want from that relation, like that partnership, that mentorship, that relationship. You need to tell your mentor to be, or whoever you're talking to, what it is that you want and what you want help with, and if they can help you with that, and also like how they can help you with that. That's very important to know from the get-go, because there could be a lot of things that you don't want happening down the line. So it's very, very, very good to have those conversations earlier on, and you have really smooth relationships moving forward.
That's great. Sarah, I want to go back to you for a second, because how do you pick yourself up when you put yourself out there and you ask someone with your little heart on your sleeve and they shut you down? How do you pick yourself back up and move on and ask someone else or do the next thing?
I'm a very resilient person with really thick skin. And I think growing up in the culinary industry, when there weren't a lot of women chefs around, I learned to take some really harsh criticism and just roll into the next task right away.
Okay.
So cultivate that within yourself. Figure out, Sarah, you're a huge proponent of self-care. And what that means for everybody is very, very different. Sarah's into spas. I am not into spas.
Disc golf. Disc golf.
Get me out in the woods, or eating someone else's amazing food, and that hits the reset button. Find that out for yourself, because and I'm so glad, Rachel, you brought this up. When you wear all the hats, you're also in charge of taking care of yourself first. Putting on your own oxygen mask, especially once you start to build up a staff and an empire around you. Yeah, Sarah, I hope you get into the self-care kind of topic on this, because as you grow, it only gets more and more intense. The pulls on you. So learning how to say no, I think is just important as learning how to take no from somebody else.
Yeah.
And pivoting. I mean, I feel like entrepreneurs heading into the pandemic maybe were more like personally ready for that kind of insane pivot that we all did, because I feel like we do it just on the regular, and that's how you find your niche and then grow it and then just continue.
Yeah, I want to really amplify that message. Learn to say no as much as take a no. That is so important the more we grow. Simonne, Patty Devine has a question for you. Do you meet resistance, even subtle resistance, because you're a woman working with some of these more male-dominated innovation support organizations?
Actually, I don't. And one of the reasons is we all have someone in our lives, whether we know them personally, whether it's a family member, somebody who's gone through breast cancer. And with the increasing, I won't say popular, but the increasing population affected by that, it's more so prevalent that somebody in your circle, whether it's a friend or an acquaintance, if it's not you that knows them, one of them knows. So, and, when I speak, I remind people, if it's not your mother, your sister, your cousin, your niece, it's another dear friend. And that breaks down that barrier and makes it real.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what's needed. It's to soften that more rigid approach that can sometimes come from a male dominated mentorship or leadership or whatever it is. But when you, and I call it, when I speak, it's raw and it's real. I don't make amends or atones about what this is about. This is about finding comfort and being comforted by something that's not going to cause you ill effects, you know, and finding that point of it's okay to not accept what's out there.
Mhm. That's such a great message, really, for all of us to not accept what's out there and what happens when you reject what's there and look at what's actually going to work better for me. It's really hard to imagine, but we are almost at time. I could talk to you guys for like I don't know, at least another hour. But I would love, Sarah mentioned self-care, which, you know, we spent a lot of time together for a while. And it's kind of funny because we talked a lot about self-care. So I'd love to hear as we're sort of starting to wrap up, what does self-care look like for you in this space that you're in right now? Rachel, maybe I'll ask you to start.
Oh yeah, sure. Self-care for me, I think I was in a point where I had to define what that looked like for like one thing, but it's not. It's anything that my body feels like doing in that time to just unplug. It could be sleeping for 9 hours. It could be eating my favorite. It could just whatever it is that takes me away from the stressors of life, which could very much be my emails. That's self-care. Just being away to unplug, a phone call with someone, a friend, anything that just takes you away from work, kids, just close the door and just stay to yourself. Just whatever it is
Amazing.
that pleases you at that time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
What does self-care look like for you, Simonne?
Maybe a weekend not coming into the office.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think being on that kind of hamster wheel of always being attentive to what's happening in the company has taken me away from the things that I really enjoy. So the summer walks on the beach, I haven't done any of those in the last couple of years. So, you know, I do look forward to being able to work fewer hours
Yeah.
once I've made those connections in the marketplace and things just start rolling and whatnot. So I do look forward to those little things that meant a lot and were really places where I could clear my mind and really focus on being me.
Mhm. Yeah. How about you, Sarah Bennetto O'Brien?
Oh man, I already talked about me. I want to talk about Simone's. So another
Yeah, I
thing
know,
that
right?
came
Okay, can we talk about Simone? Simone, we're going to really encourage you to go to the beach this weekend.
No, and Sarah, and I'm pointing up because for me, Sarah is above me.
Yeah.
Is that Sarah loves a walk and talk. And
Yeah.
with these headphones and with your phone, if you find a beach that has like semi-decent signal, you can totally have your mentor meetings or whatever as you're walking now. Like we have the tech to do that. We don't all need to be in the same space. And even just checking in with other entrepreneurs, set a time, you know, and go for a 20-30 minute walk on the beach with other entrepreneurs in your ear, or find your favorite entrepreneurial podcast. I love How It's Made with Guy Raz. There's a plug.
Or entrepreneur Handpie.
Yeah. Entrepreneur, I always have time for you, Simone. But yeah, you could still totally have those things while doing what you love. Like it doesn't have to be, you know, those, you know, black and white lines, gray zone everything. And yeah, your life will have a bit more balance that way, I feel.
And it really is amazing. It always shocks me when I'm struggling with a problem and I can't figure something out that I just walk away. And if I go outside and go for a walk, it doesn't necessarily come immediately, but it like everything just settles enough that you're washing the dishes and you're like, oh, that's the solution. Hooray. All right, we are over time, but I'm going to steal people's time for just one more minute. We have 15 minutes before the next session. So super quick, one piece of advice in one sentence for folks who are on the call today. We'll start with Simonne and then Rachael and then Sarah.
Trust your instinct.
Oh, that's good. Rachael.
It's okay not to be okay.
Oh, all right, Sarah.
Oh, can't condense myself. But if the thing you want doesn't exist, build it. Don't be afraid of that. If the job for you and your skills doesn't exist in rural PEI, well, build it, man. Like learn the entrepreneurship stuff. There's a network for that, and just give her.
Listen, I have goosebumps. This was so much fun. Take a look in the chat box. And for folks, some of the PBOA folks put some links in there to different opportunities within PBOA. So grab those. Thank you all so much. Really enjoyed it. We're taking 15 minutes and then rolling into the next session.
This
Thank
was
you.
amazing. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rachael
Thank
and
you.
Sarah.
Thank you all.
Everybody.